Hello guys, welcome back again to my YouTube channel. My name is Abiola, and in today's tutorial we'll be taking the sewing version of the jumpsuit we made a few days ago. If you haven't seen that video, you need to go ahead and watch that video before you watch this one. It will be linked in the description box and in the comment section. So let's get on with today's video.
The first step we'll be taking today is we need to cut a facing for the armhole. Even though you can actually use the bias to turn the armhole, I would prefer to cut out a facing for the armhole area. That's something we did not do in the last video, so I'll go ahead now to cut out 4 facings. You know, we need 2 for the front and we need 2 for the back pattern. So I went ahead to place my fabric on fold, then I placed the armhole area on top of it and I cut out just the way you see me cutting out. Then I went ahead to determine how wide I want this facing to be, and I wanted it to be about 2 inches, so that's what I just trimmed out. And because I needed 4 pieces of this facing and I already have just 2, I went ahead to place them on the fabric and I went ahead to cut out the remaining 2 that I needed. Like I said earlier, if you don't want to go through the hassle of cutting out any facing, you can just use your bias to turn the armhole and turn the neckline as well, but I would prefer to use a facing for this jumpsuit.
Now I'm going to go ahead to place the facing that I have cut out for the armhole the way they should be, and I will go ahead to pin them down the way I'm going to stitch them on my sewing machine. Ensure you place them right sides facing each other. Like, let the borders be at the right side and let the facing cover it at the right side, so you are stitching at the wrong side. So I've gone ahead to also place the neck facing, and I placed the right sides facing the right side of the bodice as well. Once I'm done pinning, I'll go ahead to stitch them using 0.5 inch seam allowance, 0.5 inch at the armhole, at the neckline, and at the other armhole. The next step is to move on to the back bodice and repeat the same steps that we just spoke about on the back. You place the facing at the neckline, right sides facing each other like I said, same thing with the armhole, then proceed to pin them down as well. For the armhole, you know, we did not use the back to trace that of the back, so do not be alarmed when the one for the back is a bit longer. All you just have to do is to trim it out if it's too long. Okay, so once you are done doing all I told you, just head over to your sewing machine and also stitch them using 0.5 inch seam allowance. Another important thing you need to note is whenever you're stitching any points, your neckline, your armhole with a facing, always top stitch, because once you do that, it's going to make everything easy for you. I have gone ahead to stitch mine. Now I am notching the point. I have top stitched as well. I'm using my scissors to notch the point so that when I iron it, everything is going to lay nice and flat. And I'll proceed to get my hemming gum. This hemming gum is going to help the neckline lay flat, so I went ahead to use my hemming gum to, you know, lay the interfacing. I did not allow the hemming gum to get towards the end so that I can actually weave this part later, the remaining edge of this facing, because you also have the option of folding the edge of the facing so that you can as well then use your hemming gum to hem it down completely. But for me, I actually do not want to do that. I want to go ahead and, you know, weave it later on and then properly hem everything together. So if you notice that the facing is not laid properly, just know that I did that on purpose, because I want to have, you know, space where I can weave and then properly hem it later on. Okay, so I have gone ahead to finish ironing everything, and as you can see, it looks good. So I'll go ahead to fold my front bodice into two just to get the midpoint to enable me take my dart So I'm going to go ahead now to mark out my dart. And guys, if you do not know how to mark that, I'm going to have a video linked in the description box, Vivian OKK's video, so that you can go and check that video out, because she explained everything relating to transferring of dart, marking your dart. Okay, so if you're a beginner and you have no idea about that video is going to really help you. After marking the dart on my front pattern, I'll also go ahead to mark my dart at the back as well. Now let's work on the front trouser part. For this trouser part, I'm going to go ahead to place them right sides facing. Now this is the first one and it's facing us with the right side, and I'll place the second one on top of it. Like the right side will match the right sides, like right sides facing, and we're stitching on the wrong side. So I'm going to go ahead to pin. Okay, then I'll head to my sewing machine and stitch with 0.5 inch seam allowance. So guys, I have gone ahead to stitch, and here's what I have. The next step for me now is to gather, and I like to gather using my needle and thread. So what I'm going to do is to measure the thread I'm using so that, you know, it gathers to at least the level I want it to be. So I'm going to divide my waist by 2, and what I have, my waist divided by 2 is 14.5. okay, that's 29 divided by 2, 14.5. so I'll give a bit of allowance on the rope and just tie it, so that when I gather, the thing is going to be at least almost equal to my waistline. So I basically cut about 15 to 16 inches. Okay, about 15 inches. So that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to go ahead to gather, but I'm going to leave allowance at the end before I start gathering. I will leave about 1.25 allowance, because you know our allowance is 1 inch. So why are you gathering the allowance? Do you get? It doesn't really make sense. So I'm going to go ahead now to gather. I'll just, you know, create a running stitch or a basting stitch, just, you know, quick like that from beginning to the end to form the gathers. Guys, in case you're wondering, why did you measure your thread? So that when I put it on the upper bodies, I don't have to adjust so much. You know, it's going to be almost the same with the upper body, so that it's easy for me to just take it to my sewing machine and sew. Use any form of gathering method that you know. This is my most preferred method. I also went ahead to gather the back as well. For the back, what I did before cutting out the thread was to divide my waist by 4, because you know the back is like 1/4 of the trouser. I know you understand, right? The back is like 1/4 of our trousers. You know our trouser has 4 parts, so I divided my waist by 4, and I had 7.25. 29 divided by 4 is 7.25. So the thread I cut out was about 9.5 or 8.5. Just add a bit of allowance so that whatever you're gathering is almost matching with what you have. So at least just, you know, go ahead and gather. For the back, when you are gathering, go in by about 1.5 inches. You know our zipper allowance is 1 inch, then the allowance for stitching the trouser is 0.5. So go in by about 1.5 to 1.75 inches before you start gathering. You don't want to have gathers at your zipper allowance. It's going to look really ugly, to be honest with you. So just give a bit of space before you start to gather. You know, we'll have 2 parts of the back of the trouser. After gathering this part, go ahead and repeat the same step for the other part. Okay, then now we're going to go ahead to attach them to the upper bodies, or to the bodies. Like I just mentioned, let's proceed to join the bodies to the gathered trouser part. Now we're starting with the back. What you just have to do is to place where you have gathered, right sides facing, and stitch using 0.5 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to place them right sides facing, just like you see me doing, and I'll pin them, and I'll head over to my sewing machine to stitch using 0.5 inch seam allowance. Do the same thing, the same step, repeat the same step for the other part of the trouser, which is the second part of the back part. Now we'll go ahead to do the same thing for the front part as well. So for the front part, here's what I mean. So you place them right sides facing as well, also pin down and stitch using 0.5 inch allowance. And here's the back part already stitched and looking nice. Now the next step for the back part is to take in our zipper allowance, and our zipper allowance is 1.5 inches. I said I was going to explain why I took a zipper allowance of 1 inch at the trouser and I took a zipper allowance of 1.5 inch at the top, which is the bodice. Okay, I'm going to explain that now. You know, our zipper allowance for the trouser part is 1 inch, but you do know we're not stitching on that 1 inch when we're joining the crotch, because the allowance for joining the crotch itself is 0.5 inch. So adding that 0.5 inch to the 1 inch zipper allowance, that tells you that we'll be stitching on the 1.5 inch point for the crotch. So to ensure that it matches with the bodice, we have to also, you know, take in a zipper allowance of 1.5 inches so that when you join them they are going to align. Okay, so that is why we have everything aligning nicely. This is just something you need to note for any jumpsuit project, not just this one. For this one it might not really matter, but for any other jumpsuit project. So I'll go ahead to mark 1.5 inches from beginning to the end. Now look closely at this trouser part. I'm marking 1.5 inch, 1.5 inch. If you notice, the 1.5 inch I'm marking aligns with the 0.5 inch seam allowance that we would have normally used to join our crotch. Can you see? And that is why I did what I did by using 1.5 inch seam allowance for the top, and I used 1 inch zip allowance for the trouser, because they will still align. I hope it makes sense. The next step is to go ahead and iron the zipper allowance after joining, because I've gone ahead to join it. And once I'm done ironing it, the next step is to fix our inseam pocket. Now we're going to go ahead to add that pocket, and to do that, the first thing is to mark 2 inches from your waistline. Once you mark 2 inches from your waistline, you can either use your scissors to notch or use your chalk to mark that 2 inches from your waistline. Repeat the same thing at the other side as well. Mark 2 inches from the waistline, then proceed to put the pocket. To place the pockets correctly, you have to place them right side facing the way you see me doing, and you place your pocket at that 2 inch point that you marked or that you notched. Then use your pin to hold it down. Ensure that it's well placed or it's fitted. Okay, so you pin and then repeat the same step for the other side of the trouser. Okay, go ahead and place them right side facing each other and also pin. Before you head to your sewing machine, go ahead and do the same thing for the front part of this jumpsuit. Mark 2 inches from the waist like I explained, then place your pocket right side facing and also pin. So once you are done with that, head over to your sewing machine to stitch using 0.5 inch seam allowance. And here's what I have, guys. When I was done, I've gone ahead to stitch using 0.5 inch seam allowance. Here is another important step you need to take, guys. As you can see this like this, the next step is to flip this over, flip your pocket over to the right side, then top stitch. Top stitching your inseam pocket is very important. Important tips to note when you want to top stitch: bring the allowance towards the pocket side, then go ahead to stitch close to the seams. Like just stitch close to the seam, about 0.25 or about 0.25 is okay. It just ensures that your pocket remains neat. And look at what I mean by top stitching. Can you see the small line at that point? It just makes your inseam pocket look good. So now the next step is to fix the zipper. I'm going to go ahead to fix my zipper to that part that has the zipper allowance, and I will have to loosen that part to fix my zipper. So I'll go ahead and do that off camera and I'll be back. So guys, I've gone ahead to fix the zipper, and here is what it looks like. Can you see how it looks like? So the next step now is to join the front to the back. Okay, the first step in the joining of the front to the back is to join the shoulders using 0.5 inch seam allowance. After that, go ahead to join the sides, and you will join the sides with 1 inch seam allowance. If you remember, what we added as our allowance to this jumpsuit is 1 inch. So I'm going to go ahead to pin or use my clips to hold. Then you also hold the pocket area. If you notice the pocket is matching, so ensure that yours is matching. Hold them together, and once you're done, let me show you how you're going to stitch the pocket area as well. To stitch, you start stitching using 1 inch seam allowance, then you continue stitch using 1 inch until you get to the pocket, then you go in using 0.5 inch. You stitch around your pocket using 0.5 inch seam allowance round, then you proceed to come out with 1 inch, then stitch from beginning to the end using 1 inch seam allowance. After joining the side seam using 1 inch seam allowance, and after joining the pockets as well, the next step is to also join your crotch area. You can use about 0.5 to 0.75 seam allowance at this crotch area. Do not take in too much. Our last step for today is to hem the base of this jumpsuit using the allowance we added. If you added 2 inches seam allowance, use that to hem. If you also want to make sure you weave first, then hem once, not twice, you can also do that. Okay, we have finally come to the end of this video. Do not forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed watching, subscribe, turn on your post notifications so that you'll be the first to receive any video I post on this space, and I'll see you guys in my next tutorial.